Today we're going to go from this simple Excel file to a beautiful Python report using Streamlit. This is dynamic and interactive. You can filter it just like this and watch it instantly update. It's got visuals, tables which you can filter, and equally you can press drop downs here as well. Now this is a very basic implementation. On their gallery you can find loads of beautiful examples of websites built entirely in Python. You can click into each of these, read the documentation, the blogs, and just give it a look. Now, if you're very new to Python or you've never really done this before, I'd recommend checking out my store. The link will be below. Thank you to all 50,000 of you which have viewed my channel and left brilliant comments such as this. We will walk you through from absolute beginner to machine learning expert in each of these notebooks. We even have information here on Pandas. If you open it up and press download, you'll find a Jupyter notebook alongside all the relevant files. In fact, we'll even include a free guide to get you started with Jupyter Notebook and a thank you letter as well. So definitely check this out and let's get into it. Now, this is the script. It's really simple. You see, it's not that long at all. And I very heavily commented on this as well, so you can see exactly how it works. In fact, there's only a few imports here. There's only 4 imports and a few lines of code. So let's get right into it. Now the data set we used here, which I'd shown you in the Excel file, is built into Seaborn. Seaborn is an advanced statistical plotting visualization library, and they've built into it this data set on tips. Tips from people who are smokers at different times of the day, based on the amount of bill they paid, size of the people going to the restaurant, and so forth. Now to access this, you can actually download it straight from Seaborn. So let's import that library to be used with import Seaborn as SNS. Now before that, I just want to say this entire script you'll find on my website for free, so I will link that in the shop as well. Now before we get to that Seaborn import, we need Streamlit. This is going to be the basis for our web application. Then we'll have Pandas. Now that's standard for dealing with data frames and manipulating them. And we'll import matplotlib as well. This is just for plotting. So now we have those 4 imports out the way. Let's get into it. So you can set the title of the app very simply. The syntax isn't too difficult. It's just st, and this is what we refer to Streamlit as above. st.title, and here I called it Interactive Data Science Dashboard with Streamlit. That's what we see up here, but you can put whatever you like. Then I load in that data set directly from Seaborn. So I set the data frame, I assign it to Seaborn, load the data set tips. Now this is a brilliant data set just on its own. I recommend using this to practice your visualizations. That's why it's there. Equally, you could bring in your own data set by typing df equals pd.read_excel and then the name of your data set, or CSV or otherwise. But we're going to use this Seaborn data set here. Now on the side of the application on the web app, we went through the filters like gender and otherwise. I want to set a header just like I had up here, but specifically for the filters, and I'm going to call that filter options. For a little bit of reference, that's this. So what you can see here is we're just going through each of those elements and assigning values to them. One of the filters was gender, and I wanted this to be a MultiSelect dropdown. So I also wanted to make it so there was no default, meaning when you load it up, it isn't automatically on one or the other. When you refresh it, there's nothing there, and you can select from this unique dropdown. Now, of course, in this data set, there's lots of males and lots of females. So if I assign this dropdown to just that column, there's going to be loads of options. I just needed the unique values. So what I did here is I created the object, the widget of gender, and I set it to the sidebar of Streamlit st. I set it to a MultiSelect object, and then I assigned it the title of select gender. That was the label for the filter. Now here are the actual options. Looking in the Pandas data frame, which was the tips data set, we use the sex column, but only the unique values. So it's just one or the other, that binary option. Now, moving on to our next filters, we also wanted day of the week. Again, very similar. We created a MultiSelect widget for selecting the day of the week, and we assigned that, we called it day. We did streamlit.sidebar MultiSelect, called it select day. So that was the label. And then we used, again, the unique values for day. Now, if we head up to here and we have a look at our data set, which I haven't filtered yet with anything, looking at the day column, it's just Saturday, Sunday, or otherwise. So we thought that could be useful in seeing the trends over time throughout the week. So we have that done. I also wanted time of the day, lunch or dinner, because that's again a feature available within the data set. Now, if you haven't really worked with Pandas and you aren't familiar with .unique methods or manipulating the data frame, again on my website in a Pandas workbook, which is only £5, we go through this. I've kept all my workbooks as cheap as possible to say thank you to you guys who made all of this possible. So, time of day, very similar. We assign the sidebar MultiSelect with the label of select time day to the time. The options are the unique values in time. Now that that's done, we want to filter data based on the sidebar selections. It's all well and good having those there, but we want to actually manipulate the data frame based on what we select. So what we did is we started with a full data set and made sure to only apply filters if selections were made. We created a copy of the original data frame with df or data frame using pandas.copy and assigned that to the variable filtered data. What we did next is we wanted to apply the gender filter if a selection is made. It's not too difficult to do that. We just did an if statement that said if gender, if the filtered data is filtered to the sex and the gender, apply it. Same for day, same for time, filtered. If it's filtered for the time column and it's in the time column, use that. Brilliant, but we then want to display that. So we set the subheader. Now the main header is the top text here. The subheader is this filtered data set. You can see I've kept the design very simplistic. You can make it a lot better though, and I'd recommend having a play. In fact, there are lots of different themes as well. If you have a look at what other people have made, there's dark mode, and you can also have animations in there as well, but that will all be found in the documentation. So let's continue. I wanted to display a message for the edge cases for the error handling. Let's say there's no data that matches that filtered criteria, but then I wanted a warning to pop up. So streamlit.warning or st.warning, no data is available. Please adjust your filters. You don't have to do this, but otherwise they're just not going to see anything and they're going to be quite confused. Here, the scatter plot. Now to do this, we need to set the subheader and the markdown. Now to better explain that here, the subheader is the title there and the markdown is the smaller text below it. So we wanted to look at a scatter plot of total bill versus tips, and we wanted to add a bit of description here to explain what it shows, which is the relationship between the two. You don't really need this, but again, I put it there just so I could demonstrate how it works when you build a Streamlit application. But we've put the markdown, we've put the subheader, and then we move on to plotting the scatter plot. And again, to do this, we used Seaborn. First of all, with Matplotlib, we set the figure size. This, again, is all taught to you within the data visualization workbook. So this shouldn't be difficult. You set the figure size. Within Seaborn, you do the scatter plot. The data set is the filtered data from earlier, which is a copy of our data frame. We set the x-axis to total bill and the y-axis to tip, and the hue, which is the legend, to sex. We gave it a title with Matplotlib here, total bill versus tip. We labeled the axis, and then we did this. Now what streamlit.pyplotplt does is it displays the plot in the Streamlit application. If you didn't do that, you've created a visual, but it's not anywhere on the page. Our next visual, so just to remind us here, is the final visualization. It's just the distribution of total bill with the markdown and subheader. It's a histogram, which is a bit like a bar chart, but it puts stuff into various categories, and it shows the distribution of total bill over time. So we set the subheader, the markdown, and then we plot it, again setting the figure size. It's good to have a play here, and I'll show you how to run it in a moment. But once you have set the figure size, it might be too small, or equally it could be very large. Now, Streamlit is great in that it allows you to actually zoom into a lot of things, and it'll be there by default, but you're able to manipulate that. So, histogram, bins of 30. I put KDE as true. Now what that means is it's just this line here. If you didn't have that, it would work absolutely fine, but you wouldn't have the line to show the trend, which is quite nice to have. Then we wanted to add some interactivity, which is that final filter I showed you. We wanted a drop down with we set here, which selects the day. We labeled it, and you're picking up a theme now, which is brilliant. So within this variable called selected day with the label select day, it's a select box object or widget. And what it does is it looks in a data frame for the day column, takes the unique values so they're not repeated, and then we can just choose the day. From there, we do some calculation in Pandas, which is crucial in data science and using Python for data analytics. We assign average tip to the data frame day tip.mean. So basically, all this is saying average tip is the same as the mean of the tip column for the day. And then we display the result in an F string. If you're not familiar with F strings, again, we talk about that on the store, but if you wanted to print out an item like this, that's great. It will print out hello. If I then wanted to bring in the result of a different variable, well, how do I do that? Because if I just type in average tip, it's going to print out hello average. So what you can do is within curly brackets, type in the name of your variable and start it with an F, and then the words it prints out are just here. And within the curly bracket, it's just the variable. But you're done. Fantastic. We've walked through this step by step and built it. Once you've done that, and here I use Jupyter Notebook for that, you're going to want to head over and save it. But importantly, go to File, Save and Export, and an executable script. Let me close down my application here for a moment. You can see, and I can delete that now, I have my script and I saved it here. I called it app. What you're then able to do is head over to your terminal. By the way, before you do this, make sure you have pipt installed all of those libraries, Pandas, Matplotlib, Seaborn, and Streamlit. But you want to head over, open your terminal in that folder location, and type this following command. Streamlit run app.py. That's just the name of the Python file. If you didn't name it app, just put your name in place of app. Hit run, it'll take a moment and then it will load up for you your application. So that's it. You guys have built out a brilliant Streamlit application from end to end. You can find everything and the shop in my description. You'll see it load up perfectly every single time. If there is an error, it will let you know straight away. Just as an additional mention, you're going to want to make this live, meaning anyone can access your website. They don't have to be on your computer or have Python to run it. And to do that, you're going to want to go to GitHub and create a repository. Here I had one on my personal one called Automation App. And inside that, I put the app.py. Then what I was able to do is head over to streamlit.com, Streamlit here. And on their page, if you sign in, you can go to their cloud. This is a space to host directly from your GitHub, just like this. You put in the repository name, where it is, what it's called, and hit deploy. It'll take a moment, and then it's done. Anyone can now access it via the link it provides. It is completely free. So all the best and good luck.
Python's hard, data is tough. It's like reading books is so last year, and I'm done with the boring videos.
Out with the old. Learn with interactive workbooks, running code, and building your portfolio. Join over 48,000 people learning by doing.